Gary video. I'm just watching your building a bridge, and for reasons of Mystic Land, if I make the video now when I'm only 5 minutes in, I can put that part of this video up quicker than I could if I didn't. In other words, we'd have to wait till tomorrow if I waited till the end of the video. Don't worry about it. But I've got some stuff here anyway, just up until the 5 minute mark. Why do we see the decisions and the honour code? That's where you started. Obviously that's linked into where we're going to get to later in the audience. But I think it's just a shortcut, the honour code thing. That worked. The vegetarian, and I'm doing it for whatever it was that got you through that part where you didn't have that steak. That goes into memory as a shortcut. I've got these, that works just as a shortcut, because it's like you're walking and you found a new path, a new shortcut, and that will go into memory as a shortcut. It's a good thing, it's an efficient thing to have. So we've got short-term, medium-term, long-term memory. I know it's short-term and long-term memory, but there's a kind of a medium-term memory apparently that's kind of the day, and it's kind of on a wheel that's being turned. Now, I just vaguely remember this from listening to white coats talking about it. And it just goes through past events of, the last 5 minutes to the last 4 hours or something, and it picks out things that have lasted in memory that long, and then they get shoved into permanent long-term memory. If you found a little shortcut, what apparently happens is it keeps short-term memory going by a small cog keeps whirring round, and if it was a win, it knocks it up to where a medium-sized cog will pick it up in the next hour or so, and find that was a win, that was worthwhile knowing, and it'll be passed on to the bigger cog, which will then eventually get itself into long-term memory or something. So yeah, anything that's a kind of a win, for whatever reason, is liable to get up through the cogs, and again that's very analogous, but I've heard white coats talk about it, something like that, and it'll get into full long-term memory like that. Now I've got this, remember my pyramid of things where, what's the bloody hell thing I call at the top? Like the God botherers have God at the top. That's a long-term memory shortcut, and if in doubt you access that. You just go straight to that. What do I think about this? You access that. What will God say about it? We wouldn't obviously do that. You'd go something like, what's it logical to do? Well, we'd both go, what's it logical to do? If it was a vegetarian thing, we'd have a block. It might not be at the top of the pyramid, but it'd be up there, up on the thinner rungs at the top, that we could refer to and go, no, like I've got this thing about fish. Do I eat fish or don't I eat fish? And I know to refer to that, instead of going through the whole reason, do I eat fish or not, I only have to go to that block to get the shortcut of what I actually think. Anyway, that's enough of that. Yeah, I think we will have understood that. The oneness. Now, this is why I know this would make a full video. Your quote was something along the lines of, we do actually think that we are the one thing, and then there was the implication or plain saying that is watching like the thoughts arise. Now, I'm not totally sure on that, whether I do feel as though I'm one thing watching the thoughts arise. I think if you could educate a child on the dwarves, I think a child could be raised up to think, well, of course it's dwarves. It's just dwarves talking to each other. And sometimes I'm this dwarf listening to those dwarves, and sometimes I'm this dwarf listening to those dwarves. And I think that's how more I feel. I obviously know what you mean by I feel as though I'm one mind listening to voices, but I am personally comfortable with I'm this dwarf listening to those dwarves, The next time I'm this dwarf listening to those dwarves, now I'm this dwarf listening to those dwarves. In other words, I don't think that is an established, this is how humans think about it. I think our language, and a bit how we're not taught, because we're rarely taught to go into this, but I think the feeling isn't that strong and established. I think with a bit of education, it could be easily slapped out. In other words, it's not an innate sort of everybody has it, will always have it sort of thing. I think it's semi-learned, because I honestly am quite happy being here, here, here and here, and not thinking I am always the same one thing, whatever it is, listening to these different voices. I feel as though I am a different thing listening to different voices. Okay, and that's where I pick up on the audience, because I'm not so attracted to being distinct and distant from the dwarves acting on the stage. I am quite happy being a dwarf on the stage. So the dwarves are being watched is the way you feel about it, because you just said it. And I can see that that is a natural sort of thing, but I don't think that that is or has to be universal, everybody, that's the way it is, because I'm not particularly. I don't feel as though I need the audience at all to be there for the analogy. But I do understand and respect that I could well believe that a straw poll or a poll most people would think that they are one set thing listening to the voices of the dwarves. But we must throw ourselves back on the fact that when we were analogizing the theatre, we couldn't find the audience. We didn't know where to put the audience in. We can obviously go back there and see if we can find a place for the audience, but when we were doing it, we didn't find a place for the audience. And I was comfortable with that, but now you've come to build the bridge to me that feels pain. You're feeling as though you need the audience to kind of skiggle your way in to be something. And I'm saying, I'm not making it up, that I'm comfortable being a dwarf, but I am comfortable being a dwarf, and I'm uncomfortable with you trying to pull yourself out of being a dwarf and trying to set yourself as somebody in the audience. The dwarves are being watched, and the implication will be that it'll be you that's watching them. But again, we didn't find you or an audience when we were analogizing the theatre. So I think you should at least look at yourself to see if you're just kind of making it up just to make it easier to slip yourself in. But if you can do it, I'm listening. Bye.